We're very happy to have Jon Taylor with another webinar. He's been doing these for years. I was thinking about that before I joined, and I was like, I mean, it's literally been years that you've been
Yeah.
providing content on a regular basis on our website, and we're incredibly grateful for your care and compassion in doing that, because this is all volunteer people. It's like,
Yeah.
he's volunteering this, so I'm grateful. So
We're
what do
going
you have
into
for
like
us today? Go ahead.
But before I get into the topic, just you sparked some things. I think we're going into like year 6. And
Oh my gosh.
the other night, my 14-year-old, he always likes to tease me. So he calls me in and he says, "Dad, I didn't know you had a YouTube channel." And I thought he found these videos, and I come in and it's some other bald guy with a beard, and he trolls me on that all the time. Like, you all look the same. And um so my wife is in there with him, and they're laughing, and then she says, "Dad actually has a lot of videos on YouTube." And my son's like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, he's been doing videos for this channel for like 5 or 6 years." And I said, "Yeah, at this point there's probably a few hundred."
It really is incredible, the wealth of information, and people, are finding I hear often people that are struggling and just listening to a webinar or a podcast, but the webinars, it resonates with them, and they're feeling connected and not all alone. So in the moment, even if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, they're feeling a connection, and hopefully hope that that there's healing. So
Yeah.
I'm grateful.
Yeah. And every now and then, I think you hear back more than I do, but every now and then you hear about something that makes a difference, and that's why I do these. Plus, it's fun to talk to Tammy and Rob. So, our topic today is: Are we a team? And
Good one.
this topic came out of something I've noticed about the couples that I work with. You could put them in 2 columns. You could have the couples who are just trying to get stuff done, and there's really that feeling of like, um, I I want things to be this way, or I want things to be that way, and why aren't you working with me? Versus couples who really understand their greatest asset is that they are a team who cares about each other. And my assertion in the lecture part of this is, I think you're going to be better at getting stuff done. You'll be better at getting stuff done if you operate as a team. And so we're going to talk about what operating as a team is and isn't. So I'll put this question out there. Would you rather be part of a unit that puts performance and accomplishment above all else, or a unit that makes room for the fulfillment and comfort and eventual actualization of everybody who's part of it? And I'll give 2 examples. So over the years, I've had a chance to be on a lot of different teams, groups, organizations, things like that. And 2 that stand out for me. So when I was in high school, my mom really liked band, and she wanted me to be in the marching band. So as a dutiful enmeshed boy, I was in the marching band. And it was fun to hang out. Like, I had friends in there, and we dorked around a lot, and got a lot of satisfaction around like not quite being bought in, and being mischief makers. But my second year in the band director got us into the Rose Parade, and I think this was like the pinnacle experience for him. And this wasn't like, I don't remember discussion the year before of like, "Hey, band, do we want to do this?" It was like his thing. So there were, I remember from the very beginning, like, he would talk about concepts of like synergy, and how we're all one part of a bigger whole, and when we work together we create something really good. Like, there were some good ideas and things like that, but it became very, very clear that the standards that were in place were the standards that made him look a certain way. The standards that were in place were not about the well-being of the whole. It was about his reputation, and some things that made this really clear. There was, first of all, an unflinching enforcement of these standards. There was no, "Hey, what's going on? You're not with the program." Like, even at a minimum, it was, you're out of line. We don't care why. Here's the punishment. The first year was fine, like with our regular competition, sort of. But I did notice that, So our band is one of the bigger ones in the state. There's only a few other bands in our category, but I noticed if we didn't take first place, first of all, where the band director would go is he would talk about the unfairness of the judges and how the school who usually beat us, and they were a tight, well-oiled machine, like they deserved all of their wins. Um, how they cheated in some way, which I never understood how you do that in a marching band competition. And then when he was done with that narrative, he would make individual attacks. People who weren't pulling their weight, people who would cost us the competition. And this was
Within your
the
band?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And this was the norm. This is how it went. He had his favorites who were never a problem, and then he had the people who didn't matter what they did, they were going to be the scapegoats. Um, so when we went to the Rose Parade my second year, this kicked up this dynamic like 300%, and it was very, very toxic and very miserable. And the Rose Parade is not judged or anything like that. Like, you don't get a score for it, but he was really happy with how it went for him. He thought it made him look good. But there was this real like not we're standing on each other's shoulders, more like I'm going to stand on your shoulders and I'll get the glory. I remember we got some kind of, maybe it was from a competition of the parade. We got some kind of trophy, and he held it and it stayed in his office, his locked office, so we could see it through the window, but it was not anything that everybody could pass around or partake in. Contrast that with right now, my oldest son is on the high school mountain biking team, and not just his team, but the entire national mountain biking organization is like one of the most positive, supportive things I've ever seen. So I'm writing as a parent writer. I had to do some training, and they really emphasized, first and foremost, everyone is here for their own reasons, and that has to be respected. So there's kids on this team. There was a kid last year who graduated, and he graduated right into a sponsorship deal. Incredible athlete. And then there's kids on the team who, slow as can be, do the whole race with a smile on their face and are clearly not prioritizing like finishing the race fast. They're doing it for the enjoyment. At the beginning of every race, the coach reminds everybody, remember, everybody's here for their own reasons, and we are a positive, supportive team. So we're at practice last night, and all this also knowing that like the ultimate team score is a combined thing, so that does determine podium place. But the goal of the unit is not let's be in the first place on the podium every time. The goal of the unit is, if you said at the beginning of the season you wanted to ride, we're going to make sure that you still want to ride throughout the season, and we'll do everything that we can to make sure that you still want to be here and that it's a good experience for you and that you're growing according to your own goals. Um, so any negativity towards struggles and flaunting the rules is not tolerated. So last night, the training was riding up this old road that goes to a ski resort for the high school side of the team, and the practices for the high school kids are miserable. Like, it's not fun trail rides. It's pushing limits. So the coach who was setting it up, he said, here's the intervals you're going to do. Remember, we're all teammates here, so everybody gets encouragement. Coaches ride, look for people who need help. And then he said, we have, starting on a certain section of the road, we have blue cones up, and everybody needs to remember, just like NASCAR, that's a slow zone. If you are not checking your speed, you will sit the rest of the practice in the parking lot. And the reason why was because it was a section of the road with loose gravel, which is not real safe to ride on. And we actually had a kid, I think he broke his arm last night. He was not checking his speed, and he got to sit in the parking lot with a broken arm, and he was waiting for a ride to the hospital. So there are expectations on the team, but the expectations are around core safety. The expectations are around adhering to the agreements we made. So after practice, one of the coaches, there's almost 100 kids on the team, and my son is brand new. So the coach walks up to him and says, "What's your name?" And my son introduces himself, and he says, "Hey, this earbud you have in your ear, that's not going to fly. You agreed to not wear earbuds on the trail. You need to be able to listen." And I said to the coach, I threw my kid on the bus a little bit. I said to the coach, I've talked to him about this multiple times. So next time you see him with an earbud, just lay into him. And he said, okay, next time I see you with an earbud, I'm taking it and I'm selling it. Like, you don't get to have those anymore. And I was like, that's what you agreed to, man. And it's a safety issue. So there is stringent, I think on functional good teams, there is stringent concern about safety and well-being of everybody. And we take that very seriously. But outside of that, when basic safety is established and fulfillment is happening, we look for the biggest possible area where everybody can be here for their own reasons. Everybody can show up and get what they need to out of it. So the basic idea on this high school mountain team is if everybody adheres to a minimum safety and acts as a team, we're here to see where this ride takes us. And if there's elements of the experience that we're not happy with as a team, we're going to get together and decide what we can do about that. It's no one person's vision. So with those stories, those experiences in the backdrop, and that question, would you rather be part of a unit that puts performance above everything, or a unit that makes space for the fulfillment and safety and comfort and eventual actualization of all? I will say 100% of the couples that come to my office do not really work as a team. And I've even noticed when I'll bring up that phrase, hey, you guys aren't working very well as a team, it's almost like it doesn't register. Almost like this, like, why are we talking about that? That's not what this is. This is not a team. This is a marriage. And so they can often fall into this thing where they're actually pursuing individual objectives, and it becomes this tug of war for power or priority. It becomes something that nobody's really happy that they're a part of. I mean, day to day, they might have this overall idea of like, I love the life that we built. I think you're a really great person. I really love you. But as far as the experience of happiness day to day, they don't really have that. And I would say this is one of the most significant underlying attitudes that opens that up to like very low satisfaction and a lot of wheel spinning. So teams don't disregard the safety and the well-being of any of the members. And there is never a condition like, so when the team, when we've been on other venues practicing, there's some places where the trail is single track, meaning like it's big enough for one person to get through. Even the fast riders, the kids who get the notoriety, who do, medal individually, stuff like that, they aren't shoving the slow riders out of the way because they want to go faster on the trail. They're still practicing good etiquette. They're looking for places to pass. I've seen kids communicate, like on this, I was at the top of a hill climb on practice a couple weeks ago, and this group of kids is coming up, and you can tell it's this kid on a bike who's probably older. The bike's probably older than the kid is, just slow going up the hill. And, he's at the back of the big pack, so the front is catching up to him. The front's all the fast kids. They're patiently going up the hill. And I even hear like, hey, you're doing a good job. And this is a tough hill, keep going. And then I hear as we're getting to the top, one kid says, would you mind pulling over at the top here so that we can get by? And the kid does, and the team goes by, and they all, it's not high fives because it's the trail, but there's encouragement as they pass, and there's thank yous and, all of that. So the team doesn't disregard any struggling member or any member who doesn't have safety in service of one individual. So it's that, again, we're a team. Functional teams don't coalesce around the vision and standards of one person. So I'm beginning to think that with a lot of the folks that I work with, when they say my relationship XYZ, what they really mean is my partner. And I see this go both ways for either addicted folks or their spouses. So a functional team actually has a concept of the team as separate from the individuals. And they watch for that. When the needs of one individual are getting prioritized more often, or there's not this flexibility going back and forth, at the bare minimum, the team says, okay, why are we doing this? And sometimes there's a really good reason. If somebody's injured, hurt, struggling, that's one of the benefits of being on a team is we can all pool our resources together and we can help each other. But we know why we're doing that. It's not a default setting, and it's not something we do mindlessly. Functional teams don't work against each other. So if we're saying if we're saying we are a team, and again, I'm thinking about the mountain biking, if we're saying we are a team, and we actually, the coaches talked about this last week, they said, we want to reiterate there is zero tolerance for any kind of bullying. You will be removed from the team, no questions asked, if you are participating in any kind of bullying. So, and that is not just about safety, and it's not just the bullying as a buzzword. Like, the safety and the cohesion of the team depends on, we don't work against each other. So there's really clear expectations, and there's a set standard for what the minimum of working together means, and we don't tolerate not working together. So it's either a really serious reorientation conversation, or it's, hey, this team's not working out, or your spot on the team's not working out, you're off the team. Teams do concern themselves with the immediate environment of the team. So it's not, if it's not good for everyone, it's not permitted. So the example of my son with headphones, he's fine trucking up the hill with headphones. He even said to me when I actually talked to him about this, as we were climbing this road together, and he said, I just feel like I'm gonna die if I don't have my music in, because like this is hard, and like it's what keeps me sane. And I said, I know, but you need to be able to hear. You need to be able to hear what's going on around you. It's not safe. So if it's not good for everyone, it's not permitted. It's not tolerated. And he, to his credit, as the coach got after him, he didn't have this like obstinate thing. He said, okay, I'll stop wearing headphones. We get on board when we realize if we're not contributing to a safe environment for everybody. We don't get entitled. We don't make our case for why it's okay that we do this, or you've got to get tougher. Like, we get on board and we do what we can to make it safe. Teams do exist to serve the needs of all, not just one. And they work hard to figure out how to work in harmony, meeting as many needs as possible along the way. They are clear about limits to flexibility. So if the needs of a team member require more resources than the rest of the team or certain members have, we have limits, we have boundaries, but that doesn't mean that the entire team moves in the direction of the person who's saying, no, I can't, or the person that's saying, no, I need. Like, we make careful decisions about how we're going to move forward when there are limits and boundaries, and it is not possible to meet the needs of everybody. I'd also say in a functional team, we don't do that with a messy, angry breakup. We talk in real terms about what's going to be workable and what's not. Teams do have a clear, unified vision that everyone feels good about working towards. So how does this all apply to couples post betrayal? And I'll put out a couple scenarios or a couple questions. So much of the time, I want to say almost 100% of the time, when I have couples coming to me and there's been betrayal, very rarely do I see them coalescing around this unified purpose. I'll generally see one or the other partner really hurt, scared, upset, and we're just kind of reacting to the biggest feeling of the day. So what is your unified purpose after D-Day? And remember, this webinar, I'm focused on skills you can use from day one. So this is a day one question. What is our unified purpose? If my partner is saying to me, now that I know what you've been doing, it feels like my heart has been ripped out, and like I'm so sad, or I want to die, or I'm so angry. There's a big hurt. There's a big emotion there. What's our unified purpose? Is it safety? Is it fairness? Hint, your unified purpose should be something about restoring the damaged secure functioning. In other words, if I've been keeping secrets from you, that's not fair. If I put your health at risk, that's not safe. If I'm emotionally or verbally abusive or uncaring, like, that's not okay. So the priority in the beginning should be restoring secure functioning. Otherwise, you have a relationship that's a slavery or a dictatorship situation. It's not shared power, not something that two people want to willingly be part of. Also, it's not mature to say, especially in a situation where our relationship needs to get back on track, well, I'll do it if you do. It's so attractive. Like I've been there a lot personally. It's so attractive, but it's not mature. So it's really that idea, if you need or want something to be part of a relationship, you lead and you let your partner know what your expectations are. You let your partner know why you're doing what you're doing. Because also this silent thing that I hear a lot, like, well, I won't tell you what I'm upset about because not only do I not want to upset you, but ultimately I don't want you to criticize me. I don't want to have that going back the other way. Like that's not really mature, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. But couples don't work well with that. If you don't like what your partner is doing, have boundaries, and remember that boundaries are about you, not about your partner. So sometimes I'll hear with couples, it's almost like someone's wielding a gavel and they'll say, well, it is a boundary. So conversation over. Not quite how boundaries work. The conversation's over with boundaries because I've decided what I'm going to do that's best for me, and it's not up for discussion. And notice those words. I have decided what will be best for me, what I will do. Not I've decided what you will do that will be best for me. I've decided what will be best for me. And that's why the conversation's over. Because I don't run my life by committee. Now, if I want to be part of a relationship, I realize I'm stepping into a committee and I get benefits from that. So I have to think differently. But when it comes down to like my basic safety, bare bones, I am in charge of that, and I do what's needed. So if you don't like what your partner is doing, have boundaries, not a plan to extort change. So boundaries for the primary sake of applying pressure or making your partner heard are manipulation, not boundaries. That's about, I'll make it miserable for you if you don't do what I want. And I've seen that happen from sorry. Seen that happen from addicts to their partners and partners to their addicted partners. So you have to be really, really careful that we're not seeking to extort change. We're asking clearly for the changes that we need. And again, we're focused on that as much as we can, a supportive environment where change can happen. Second question, what are the barriers to our real safety? So there's I don't know the kids on the mountain bike team well, but you can kind of see whose attitude is what at practice. There's this one particular rider. I think he might have actually been the kid who might have broken or really hurt his arm last night. He usually shows up to practice a little late, and he has some snide look for the coaches. He's not mean, but he also is one of the fastest, most skilled kids on the track, and that's very, very clear. So I think he might have wiped out because he might have thought something like, "You're not going to tell me where to slow down. I'll be in control." And rather looking at the bigger picture of safety, that maybe again in a relationship we're not always tuned into the safety of all the parts. So looking at that bigger picture and saying, okay, I can concede there. So sometimes there's a barrier to safety because we want control. You're not going to tell me what to do, or I won't be bossed around. Sometimes there's a barrier to safety because there's a lack of accountability. Either everything or nothing is an issue that I ought to be concerned about. And that's a very one person stance, whether it's every little thing bothers me and you can't do anything right, or I'm fine, I don't know why you're upset. There's a real lack of accountability and presence there, and that's a barrier to safety. Sometimes there is real disregard for our partner's well-being and happiness. Maybe you've slipped into such a level of anger that you have actual disregard for the status of your partner. That happens. I'm not condoning it. I'm not saying it's fine, you'll get over it, but it happens. But responsible teammates, responsible team members will take accountability for that, and they will seek to limit the damage that can be done by that. So that may mean I need a timeout. That may mean like we need to only interact around stuff that I'm not going to lose it over right now because I am on the edge and I really, really need to be able to pull it back. So it's understandable, but to stay in that place and punish or criticize your partner without attending to your own anger, your own needs, that's irresponsible for you and for them. Another question to look at, why is this relationship in one direction? So by that, I mean, post D-Day, I would say there often needs to be a little bit of a imbalance in the relationship. And that imbalance is the person who's been holding a disproportionate amount of power through their secrets, through their I'll do whatever I want type of behavior. You need to shift the balance like this. And that's not permission for a spouse who's been betrayed to now do whatever they want, because retribution is not reconciliation. But it may be like, I'm really hurt, I'm really tendered, and my needs are high because I just found out that you've been betraying me. And I hear from guys, and it's almost this tone of voice thing from addicts who have betrayed. I hear this like, there's one tone that's like, I get it, my feelings don't matter. And then there's this other tone that's like, I get it. Right now, my feelings are not the most important thing. So it's important to look at why might we have an imbalance in our relationship, and why does that imbalance not feel good? Are we using that imbalance to have this tug of war over power and control? Is there disregard for the need for the person who's been keeping secrets and ultimately been abusive in the relationship? Is there disregard for the need to do the time, to actually show real penance? Because that goes a long way in trust being able to rebuild. I get it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sad. Is there an unwillingness to be vulnerable? That's like, I get it. My feelings don't matter right now. That's a really vulnerable position. That's an intentional one down, but not for the purpose of humiliation, for the purposes of simplicity. If we put all of our complex feelings on the table right now, if I prioritize my complex feelings as much as yours, and I'm the one who's been keeping a secret, that's way more complexity than we're equipped to deal with right now. For the sake of simplicity, I'll take care of mine with my group. I'll take care of mine with my sponsor, with my therapist, and we'll focus on yours for now. To round out, I know this is a longer lecture than normal, but I got passionate about this. To round it out, some tips for working together. When we're working on a team, we don't present solutions that we don't think the others on the team could get on board with. So that's just being difficult. So if you're going to present solutions or make requests, at least try to think, what would my partner want out of this? How could I present this in a way would be easier for them to get on board, even if it's a hard thing I'm asking them to do? Take good care of and know yourself. So remember that differentiation is a prerequisite to secure functioning. So if you don't really know yourself, if you don't really take care of yourself, you're going to come into the relationship with a lot of demands and a lot of necessities that are ultimately unworkable in the relationship, because those are personal needs and necessities. So an example from mountain biking last night, the coaches sent out a reminder about 10 a.m. yesterday morning. They said, remind your riders to pre-hydrate. Yesterday was almost 100 degrees here. That's bad enough on its own, but riding a bike in almost 100 degrees it's awful. So one of my jobs as a parent rider is to identify riders who are struggling and to assess what are the needs and how's this kid doing and provide support. So every rider I found on the side of the trail who was about to throw up or was just like doing really bad, I asked them, did you pre-hydrate? Every single one of them said, no, I've been drinking on the ride. And I gently and kindly reminded them about noon on practice, you need to start drinking slowly, like get a liter or two in between noon and practice, and you'll do a lot better. So in relationships, differentiation is like pre-hydration. I'm coming equipped. I'm ready to do this more complex relationship thing. I'm not neglecting my pre-homework and now making that a task of the relationship. And then the last thing, become willing and able to take feedback. So this is a step one issue that we talk about. And I think even in the like the Patrick Carnes like task model stuff, we'll talk about one of the outcomes of the first task is you're able to take feedback without becoming defensive. That's absolutely necessary. I was really proud of my son last night when the coach approached him about the earbud. He wasn't belligerent. He was respectful. He was listening. He was able to take feedback without becoming defensive. So there's a lot there. We can talk about anything in specific that people want to, but that is, are we a team?
Well, a bunch of things with this. First of all, I was thinking, you said there's about 100 kids on these rides, and you talked about the one that broke the arm and struggles with some stuff, and I'm wondering how many of them that this team and all for one and paying attention and being a good citizen kind of is a newer concept. How many of them, like your son, they've had that modeled for them along the way. So challenges. And I was thinking when you were talking about the safety, it's not just the safety of the person, like that blue cone area. I mean, if somebody goes off and they knock somebody else out, I mean, it's not just a danger to yourself, it's a danger to others as well. But having the perspective of, rather than I'm going to do what I want. I love there's no I in team, and I value, like I talk about the seeking integrity team all the time, because it isn't any one person. But when people are making the I statements, I want, rather than, what is going to be overall good for the team, we're so much stronger if we're a team. So I want to, like, what is your sense of, because all of these things apply, like the 100 kids in it isn't just mountain biking. This is life lessons. This is how we can do life well. What is your sense of, how many of them this is a new concept?
Yeah, I think especially you can see with kids who are riding for their first year, and the team's open anywhere from 7th graders to 12th graders, and you can tell the kids who have been on the team for a few seasons because some of the first year riders, it's very much this like, I'm going to be king of the mountain, and like, I'm really good, I don't need to listen to this. And as soon as they get bathed in the benefits of like this positive team atmosphere, they become converted pretty quick, or they don't stay on for the next year. So you can see the people who have been along for a while. I can't count how many little high school kids burned me going up this road as I was trying to catch up to my son. And every single one who passed me, and again, I'm not a student athlete. I'm clearly an old man on the mountain. And every single one of them, you're doing so good. Good job. Keep it up.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
As they just, as they just go past me so fast. And I think it's one of those things that if you're not accustomed to it, it might be hard to understand, like, why do I need to act in a certain way? As soon as you start experiencing the benefits, and especially as soon as you start benefiting from what you contribute to the team, I think it makes a pretty fast convert. I think that idea of, okay, this really does feel better. And I see that in the couples that I work with. As soon as they start leaving the objectives, what's the stuff we got to get done, and they really focus more on how it feels to be a team, they have a hard time getting stuck again and like, we just got to get stuff done, because it feels so much better and it works so much better.
I was thinking about that too when you were said they're coming to you. It's because things aren't great. Things aren't going great in the moment. So but I was thinking, like, the thought that they don't understand that they are a team, a partnership, a team, like that is kind of mind blowing to me, because it is like a most integral team. I mean, really, we're saying we're going to team up to do life, and if that isn't the mindset, like the fracture must be difficult.
It is mind blowing, but also you have to remember, and even if you ask them, like, how many of you came from watching your parents or other adults who were close to you that worked well as a team, most people will say that didn't happen.
And that I believe. I was thinking, like, as you were sharing with the vomiting children, like I hope they were paying attention and not defensive, like that they were taking that in of like, oh yeah, that would be a good idea, and the pre-planning. Was that the overall experience?
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with the approach. So if I was riding by with just this like, clearly you didn't pre-hydrate. Like, I think they would have disregarded, but I stopped. I asked, what's your name? I introduced myself. I asked, how are you feeling? You look pukey. I was like, how much water do you have? Like, it was this real, like, you get the context and then you ask, you ask the question. And, I think most people, when you really get down to it, if they feel safe enough, like they want to learn, they want to grow, and they want to do well. It's that trick though of like our urgency of getting the job done. Like I want to see as few puking kids on the trail as possible, but our urgency in getting the task done, sometimes we overlook that there's people here. That there's people who are having a real experience. One kid told me, he said, I don't know if you noticed, my legs are really, really skinny, so it's hard for me to like put all this effort in. He's a little probably seventh grader. Um, and I said, no, no problem, man. Like your legs can be whatever size and shape they need to be. You're doing good. I'm glad you're here. Like, um, yeah, I think the feedback in the context, when you can show that there's genuine care and concern, I think feedback goes a lot better. It has a chance to go a lot better. And, I'm thinking about partners who may be out there right now and say, Jon, you have no idea how much care and concern I've called. I've put out there, and my partner just spits on it every time. And I think sometime again, here goes back to the boundary. You have the boundaries that says, listen, I'm not trying to fight with you. I'd love it if you could think about what I said. But I'm done if you want to have a fight. I'm done with this conversation. That's not where I'm headed.
Yeah, and I was thinking too about the Rose Bowl, or Rose Parade, which like everybody would be like, "Wow, it's amazing," and how that whole experience was blemished and tarnished by how the approach and the focus. It wasn't about us as a band doing all of this. It was an accolade for the band director. Even the honoring components in his office rather than for all to share, and understanding that it took the band, it wasn't just him walking through the parade. So there's a real contrast with this left a really negative experience, and then here's this thing that is really difficult. I mean, those are challenging rides, clearly, and 100-degree heat doesn't help, but I mean, just the overall, that's a challenging sport. And as a team, it's a lot of people on a hill, and to navigate all that, with a team effort, safety, we care about you, that very different experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said.
Okay, we've got a couple of questions. Um, how would you counsel the unenmeshed non-SA partner during conversation that involves conflict if there is more interest on the enmeshed SA's part to protect himself from shame rather than fostering connection in the relationship? And this is so typical. So
yeah, it's simple but hard. So you always have to remember, if there's an enmeshed individual, there is a higher proclivity for that person to feel parented and controlled. And I'd say on the other side, there's a higher proclivity for the partner to step into a role of a parent or a critic. And so the thing that comes up for me with that question is, first of all, just make sure that dynamic is disarmed. But both of you have to be really, really careful not to set up a parent-child relationship. And that can even come down to like the kind of disappointment and anger I feel that you're not getting it. So some of the mesh guys I work with, they have a knack for evoking the same kind of disappointment and anger their mothers had. So when both can work together and say, we're not interested in the relationship you had with your mother or your family. I'm not interested in finishing her business. That can go a really, really long way with that defensiveness. Listen, I'm not trying to control you. Listen, I'm not trying to be your mother. I wanna help you. And sometimes too, that comes with a need to step away for a minute so that both people can de-roll. I want to help you. Let's push pause on this for a few minutes and let's come back together once we've taken some deep breaths and we're coming in as equals here.
Yeah, and I think that that's so key, because it does get the one up, one down, and confusion about parental roles. Yeah, you want to be married to your partner, not your child. So
Right.
Okay, so this is a great topic, and no apology necessary for the prior. It's all good. I'm glad you asked. Do you have any tips for shame resilience in the midst of conflict during team building? We've been together for about 5 years and are struggling with secure functioning. We know that enmeshment and essay recovery have added barriers to this, but we're both encouraged by recent shifts in our individual and coupleship growth. I'm thrilled to hear that. So thanks for sharing that positive. But Jon, what are your thoughts on tips and tricks?
Yeah. So I'm sorry, everybody. I have mountain biking on the mind, so I'm going to tell another mountain biking story. My son is on the. He's quickly becoming a better, more confident, stronger rider than me. And so as we ride, I'll usually ask him. We try to ride together for fun at least once a week, and I'll ask him ahead of time. Do you want this to just be a go do whatever ride, or do you want any feedback? Because I generally follow him, number one, because he's faster than me, and I feel safer if he crashes. I'm right there. Um, and to his credit, most of the time he said, "I'd appreciate any tips or anything that you're observing." Um, so I've noticed that if I take that as a green light and I just pile on feedback without any praise or recognition, like it gets sour pretty quick. So the other week we were riding, and I made sure I decided there's just one factor I'm going to look at, and that's what he's doing with his feet around turns and downhill. You're supposed to drop your heels a little bit. It redistributes your weight, gives you a little more control. And he generally wants to point his toes down, and it's part of why he feels insecure going fast around corners. That's all I wanted to focus on. But like every other thing we hit besides that, like if he did a climb and he did it faster or stronger without putting his foot down, I was sure to say like, man, you weren't climbing like that a week ago. The praise was genuine. Um, how that relates to this question is I think part of how you maintain that positive environment, even when it's, conflictual and hard, is you have to have the experience of turning back together and looking at where we started. Even if we just like started a day ago. And a day ago we were just doing whatever we wanted. And now today we're saying, really struggling. Like that's progress, that's improvement. And that's so important to state to each other. So, remember, I think people are more motivated by leaving something that doesn't work than they are trying to move towards something they don't even understand. So,
Mm.
especially in the beginning, when you're doing something new that feels better, like tell each other that felt better, thank you. Or hey, we just got through something a lot better than we would have before. Um, yeah, that's what I would say about that.
Yeah, and I love that, and you're acknowledging that, and in this share, you're saying that you're seeing, you're encouraged and you're seeing progress. So, and then this is a journey, like the trail, it's a journey, like, and there's going to be uphills and downhills, and yeah. So good job. Okay, next question. Hi, Jon. We are 4+ years post D-Day. I don't think my husband still really knows himself. He tends to default to mirroring what I or whoever he's in conversation with want or need, or what he thinks I want or need. What I really want is to know him, hear his thoughts, dreams, needs separate from me. It's hard to have a team if I'm the only one providing input. I know this is his work. What can I do? Is there an opportunity for a boundary? That's a great question. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah. At the risk of maybe touching some sore spots with folks who have survived like sexual abuse in childhood, I'm going to make a comparison here. So often when I look at someone who gets to adulthood and they profoundly do not know themselves, and it's not just a matter of like, oh, I need to brush up, but it's like just this sense of that I'm separate, which is what I hear you describing here. I think there's generally something profound. There's like a profound abuse under that's not a like just never got around to developing my identity kind of thing. That's like it wasn't possible, it wasn't safe. So much in the same way that someone who suffered sexual abuse at any point in their life might struggle with sex in adulthood. We don't look at that and say, "What the heck is wrong with you?" and figure that out faster. We look at that and say, "I get it. What do you want to see happen here? What's the kind of life that you want?" And then we evaluate together. Can we build something together that works really well for both of us? And if we have the feeling that we're on the way to something that really works well for us, we may not care as much how fast it happens or how much time it takes. So to the last part of that, what can I do? I think rather than just I'm reading the words here. I want to hear your thoughts, dreams, needs separate from me. For someone who doesn't have a sense of themselves, that's so overwhelming. And for someone who does have a sense of themselves, that's like basic simple. So you got to remember that when you're asking for that from someone who's here in their identity development, that's like asking someone who just learned how to walk to win a marathon. It's a lot. So what you can do is you continue to encourage engagement from that partner and things that help them identify, build their identity, hobbies, therapy, doing things that they enjoy. Like I think my spouse, in some ways, she pulled the short end of the stick when she married me because I did not have a real strong identity. But she really did good job at like listening and looking for opportunities and even providing those opportunities sometimes. The first mountain bike I got, I'd been talking about it for years and felt too guilty to buy my own. She just bought me a bike and said, go have fun. You've been working hard, you earn it. So like that's some of what you can do is you take note and you encourage and you push there. And the boundary may be, I think about it more of a relationship boundary. So I'll challenge couples often. If you both don't think this is a good idea or you're both not bought in, why is anybody moving forward? So it may be, the boundary may be, hey, these parts of our relationship that have been resting on my shoulders, we're going to move at the pace that we can do this together. And that probably means we're gonna do less, or we're gonna have less accomplishment, or whatever that means. But the boundary may be, I'm not gonna carry more weight than you anymore. So collectively, we may get less done, but my focus is going to be on we'll do this collectively. So if we're needing input and you don't have a lot to give, I'll give my piece of input, but then we'll be waiting on you.
I love that changing the pace and very helpful. Okay, so the next one, I wonder how we start this conversation. The distance between I orientation and we orientation seems like such a wide gulf in a partnership, despite perhaps seeming less abstract in a context of team sports, workplace teams, etc. It certainly appears to serve a great purpose, preserving I selectively, speaking as a betrayed partner.
Yeah, so the focus on we is not the obliteration of the I.
Correct.
It's the integration and the incorporation. So I think one of the golden questions that really gets couples focused on we is, how is this feeling for you? There's so much that comes out of that. If somebody says this feels awful, then the we orientation is, well, what are we going to do about that? It's not just, well, it's awful for you, so now I have to become subservient to you and make you happy. Not at all. It's, I'm so sorry you're not happy. I'm so sorry this isn't working. What are we going to do about that? So I think that's one of the best ways to start that conversation, to get the we orientation, and then for the expectation to be, and this is one of those times where like, I don't think it's coy or cheap to say to your partner, if I ask, how is this feeling for you? After we tune into that, you need to ask me, how is this feeling for you? We need to make sure we're looking both ways there. And that's how the relationship starts to get concerned with the welfare of two people.
Yeah, and I don't mean there's no I in team. Unfortunately, with addiction, it's often me, and not we. And so it's more of I work in an organization, and if it was all of us individually and we were not pulling together as a team, we would not serve our clients well, and we do amazing work, and it's because we are team seeking integrity. But yeah, I'm still me, and I still take care of me within the context of that too. So okay, last question, Jon. And they said, sorry, this is off topic. It's all good. You're asking questions. I found concerning evidence, such as searching for ways to delete history multiple times in the past year, though my husband swears he is sober. How do I navigate this? I go back and forth between worrying that I'm being too harsh by making the assumption he is lying, and then feeling I'm justified due to the lack of trust.
Yeah. So when we're trying to find the most pain-free or conflict-free way to do something in a relationship, it gets really complicated. In a situation like this, I think most of the time it's best to go through the front door and say, hey, I've noticed you've been searching for ways to delete your history. That's concerning to me. Can we talk about what's going on? And it's less about the words in the preparation. It's more about your feeling state in preparation for that. If I'm going to say, can we talk about what's going on? I really need to be prepared to talk. I really need to be prepared to listen and communicate. If I'm saying you've done this and I cannot tolerate it and it's not okay, like that's a different start to the conversation. And it's okay to start that conversation that way. You just can't pull a bait and switch. So if you're angry and concerned, you need to be upfront about being angry and concerned. If you're curious and concerned, if you're tentative and concerned, you need to be upfront about that too. And again, it's part of secure functioning is we have transparency in our relationship. We share power, and that whole like if my mind is focused on covering my tracks, I don't want my partner to know or anyone to know what's going on. Like that's a breach of secure functioning, and it has to be addressed directly. Beating around the bush won't get you there. And if the response is something angry, again, there can be this like, I'm not trying to start a fight with that. That's actually the last thing I want to have happen. I want to have a serious conversation about what this means because it's scary for me.
Yeah, and I was we say all the time, trust the actions, not the words. We have guys that come to our residential treatment program that have been lying to their partners themselves, their therapists for years, and so I'm sober. We have guys that pick up chips, at meetings for years and have to go back to the group and go, I was lying to you. And all of that stuff is painful. That's part of the addiction, and I'm not justifying or minimizing it. I'm inviting you to trust your gut, trust what you're seeing. Yes, this is not okay. And if the words he says to you are gaslighting and like, oh no, you didn't see that, or I heard the other day somebody was saying that like Google did something, and I said, Google's never done that to me. Like, put porn on my, I mean, no, like, no, if it doesn't align, if the words and the actions are not aligned, that wouldn't be real recovery. So I invite you, Jon mentioned earlier, boundaries are for your safety. It's that, I'm taking care of me. And this would be you taking care of you in this situation. We have a betrayed partner work group starting July 21st. It's a Sunday. It's the first time we've had it on a weekend. Those are 90 minutes once a week, live facilitated. Angela Spearman does that, but we talk about healthy boundaries, communication. I mean, like there's some really great, information in those. Many therapists suggest that people participate in those. We have Sex Addiction 101 separately, etc. But those are not therapy or treatment. It is supportive of the work that you're doing with a qualified therapist. And separately, we have an Empowered Women's Retreat. We have only a few spots left for the August one. And we talk about you and healing for you. Not what he's doing or not doing, but we work through anger. We're doing breath work. There's psychoeducation. We talk about internal boundaries and external boundaries. I mean, it's a lot of great information, but it's a lot of healing in a short amount of time. As always, email me, Tammy, TAMI at seekingintegrity.com if you've got questions about any of that information. But great job again. I love this topic, and I love the framework with which you shared it. Both the band, because I was like Rose Parade, and then I was like, oh, Rose Parade. I mean, sad. I mean, really, and but then wow, like. Great job with that team, but like what a great experience for you and your son, to have, those are memories that I mean, you'll have them forever. So great job. So a gift to see you again, my friend. Thanks for all of you to being here. This video will be posted. Scott's on vacation this week, so It'll go up early next week, but you'll be able to find it on our website. So thank you all.
Thanks, Tammy. Bye, everybody.